This is CNN, a service of Turner Broadcasting System.
Hello, this is a CNN special, The Year in Review. I'm Lynn Russell.
I'm Bob Kane. In the next 60 minutes, we'll look back at the top stories and newsmakers of 1986. We begin with the Challenger shuttle disaster, the worst accident in the history of space exploration.
Good morning. This is Shuttle Launch Control.
The morning of January 28th seemed routine.
Here we see the 51L crew enjoying breakfast. Mission Specialist Stellison Onizuka sitting beside teacher and space participant Krista McAuliffe. Commander Dick Scobie sitting beside pilot Mike Smith in front of the traditional cake featuring Halley's Comet and an apple for the teacher. Judy Resnick on the left, mission specialist, along with Ron McNair, and payload specialist Greg Jarvis.
After the traditional pre-launch breakfast, the shuttle crew walked confidently out to board the Challenger.
Big smiles today.
They suited up.
The temperature is about 24 degrees on the pad.
And then the countdown to tragedy.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
Control program. Roger, roll, Challenger. Engines throttling up, 3 engines now at 104%. Challenger, go at throttle up. Challenger, go at throttle up. A minute 15 seconds. Velocity 29 nautical miles. Downrange distance 7 nautical miles. Looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction. We have no downlink. We have a report from the flight dynamics officer that the vehicle has exploded. Flight director confirms that. We are looking at checking with the recovery forces.
Sometimes when we reach for the stars, we fall short. But we must pick ourselves up again and press on, despite the pain.
President Reagan led the nation in tribute to the Challenger astronauts. A wreath was dropped over the spot where the Challenger supposedly fell, and the nation was plunged into mourning. Seven towns paid their last respects to 7 astronauts. But they weren't able to bury them until more than 3 months later, when the astronauts' bodies were finally recovered from the sea and identified. In the long investigation that followed the accident, the Presidential Commission uncovered a disturbing fact about how the astronauts died. A close examination of photographs and tapes showed the crew probably survived the initial explosion. The last recorded voice was pilot Michael Smith saying, "Uh-oh." The commission uncovered many other disturbing aspects to the shuttle disaster. The rocket manufacturers, for example, had tried to warn NASA about a problem with booster seals.
In fact, I made the direct statement that if anything happened to this launch, told them I sure wouldn't want to be the person that had to stand in front of a board of inquiry.
It was only then that the public realized that the morning of January 28th was far from routine. Freezing temperatures had iced the launch pad. The O-ring seals holding the booster rockets together were defective. But worst of all, NASA apparently ignored all the warnings and decided to launch anyway.
And an argument is always given that last time it worked. It's a kind of Russian roulette.
NASA was in shambles. One by one, the officials who had presided over the Challenger accident were replaced. But the space program ran into technical difficulties as well, cursed with a series of launch failures. First, the Titan rocket, then the Delta.
have a main engine shutdown.
Commercial concerns began looking to Europe, Japan, even China for alternative launch facilities. But the military had not lost interest in the shuttle. When the new shuttle launch schedule was unveiled in October, more than 40% of it was committed to Pentagon. Some non-military plans are still on the drawing board, like this space station, to be completed in less than 10 years. It's expensive, it's ambitious, but it's part of a loftier goal, the exploration of space.
The future does belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave. The Challenger crew was pulling us into the future, and we'll continue to follow them.
For the Year in Review, I'm Tom Mintier.
In April, another terrifying technological accident, this one in the Soviet Union. An explosion and fire at a nuclear power plant near Kiev devastated the immediate area and sent radioactive clouds drifting halfway around the world.
There was something ominous in the wind, and the first warning signs appeared in Sweden. Up to 5 times the normal level of radioactivity was detected over Scandinavia, carried there by winds from the Soviet Ukraine. Sweden and other countries asked Moscow what was going on and didn't get an answer for 6 hours. Finally, Radio Moscow admitted there had been a mishap at the Soviet Union's Chernobyl nuclear power plant. But there was no cause for alarm. In a terse statement, Moscow conceded that a reactor had been damaged and a few people injured, but insisted the government had the situation under control. Through satellite photos and other sources, the Western world soon realized the accident was far more serious than the Soviets were admitting.
We know that a major accident occurred at the Chernobyl nuclear facility. We know that that major accident resulted in an explosion and major damage to Unit 4 at that facility. We know that a fire occurred, and then we have a continuing fire at that facility.
Within days, it was clear, and Moscow finally admitted, that the worst disaster in more than 30 years of nuclear power had occurred at Chernobyl, about 80 miles north of Kiev. The Soviets originally reported 2 people had died, but the toll climbed rapidly to more than 30. Hundreds were hospitalized with radiation illnesses. More than 130,000 people were evacuated from the area. Plant workers labored to seal off the burning reactor before it could poison the water, the soil, and the air for hundreds of miles around. As the extent of the disaster dawned on Kremlin leaders, lines of communication to other nations opened up as never before. The Soviets showed pictures, held press conferences, invited foreign correspondents to the scene, called in nuclear experts from the United States and other countries. The fallout over other countries set off Geiger counters all around the world, even in the United States. The fallout was real, although it didn't amount to a serious danger outside the Ukraine, but it heated up the debate everywhere on whether nuclear power plants are worth the risk.
The Soviet meltdown has made us ask this question: can it happen here?
Although the Chernobyl disaster understandably generates concerns about the safety of nuclear reactors, I want to state at the outset that we are confident in the safety systems and the operating procedures that DOE reactors that have and have served us in the past and will continue to serve us extremely well.
After desperate efforts, the Soviets finally sealed the damaged reactor permanently in concrete. 4 months later, in an unusually frank and detailed report, they blamed the disaster on gross human error. Promising safer operation in the future, they repaired the damaged plant and began restarting the reactors that had been shut down during the crisis. They built new homes for the people returning to the area, but permanent damage had been done. The region around the Chernobyl plant will continue to be dangerous for years to come. Great tracts of farmland are useless, complicating the Soviet Union's persistent agricultural production problem. Over the next 70 years, up to 40,000 people in the Soviet Union may die of cancer as a result of the Chernobyl accident. Some Western experts say the Soviets continue to rely on obsolete and unsafe equipment at all their nuclear plants. They're afraid that this, and not human error, could cause more and worse nuclear disasters in the future. For the Year in Review, I'm Ralph Wenger.
Just ahead on the Year in Review, the crisis that could diminish the Reagan presidency.
And the tactics and targets of terrorism around the world. For President Reagan, a year that began with success and high hopes for the future is ending on a tarnished note. The disclosure of secret deals abroad sent the most popular administration in recent history into a tailspin.